Karen's smirk could curdle milk, but the fridge she clutched wasn't hers to take. By the time her own security camera betrayed her, it was too late to undo the chaos she'd unleashed. In the quiet suburb of Willow Creek, where picket fences and manicured lawns painted a picture of harmony, Karen Whitaker was a storm in human form. A 48-year-old real estate agent with a penchant for control, she thrived on bending rules to suit her whims. Her neighbors knew her as the woman who'd demand your hedge be trimmed an inch shorter or lecture you for parking a half-inch over her driveway line. But Karen's latest stunt would make her infamous not just in Willow Creek, but across the internet. Dr. Samuel Ellis, the local veterinarian, was the opposite of Karen. At 42, he was a soft-spoken man who'd spent years building trust in the community. His small clinic, nestled at the edge of his property, doubled as a sanctuary for injured strays. In his garage, he kept a mini fridge stocked with vaccines and medications for the animals he cared for. Nothing fancy, just a battered old unit that hummed reliably. To Sam, it was a lifeline for his work. To Karen, it was an opportunity. It started innocently enough, or so it seemed. Karen had been hosting a backyard barbecue, her usual ostentatious affair with catered sliders and a rented bouncy castle for the kids. But her own fridge, packed with artisanal cheeses and organic kombucha, couldn't handle the overflow of soda cans and burger patties. She needed space, and she needed it now. That's when her eyes landed on Sam's garage, just across the low fence separating their properties. She'd seen the fridge before, during one of her neighborly inspections of Sam's yard. It was old, unassuming, perfect for her needs. And in Karen's mind, what was his was hers, as long as she could justify it. Late that afternoon, with her guests distracted by music and charcoal smoke, Karen slipped into Sam's unlocked garage. The fridge was heavier than she'd expected, but she dragged it across the concrete floor, leaving faint scratches in her wake. She didn't bother asking Sam, who was out on a house call, tending to an elderly Labrador with a limp. Why should she? It was just a fridge, and she'd return it later. Probably. With a grunt, she hauled it into her backyard, plugged it in, and filled it with Diet Colas and ketchup bottles. Her party went on without a hitch, her guests none the wiser. But trouble was brewing. Sam returned home that evening, exhausted but ready to check on a batch of vaccines he'd stored for a litter of rescued kittens. When he opened his garage door, his heart sank. The fridge was gone. His first thought was theft, teenagers, maybe, or a random break-in. But the scratches on the floor told a different story, leading straight to the fence line. Following the trail, he peered over into Karen's backyard, where his fridge sat proudly under her patio awning, humming away as her guests grabbed drinks from it. Fury rose in his chest, but Sam wasn't one for confrontation. Not yet. He knocked on Karen's door the next morning, hoping for a reasonable explanation. Karen answered, her smile as polished as her manicure. "Oh, Sam, I just borrowed it for the party," she said, waving a hand dismissively. "It's no big deal. I'll bring it back when I'm done." Sam's jaw tightened. "Karen, that fridge has medications in it. For animals. They're time sensitive. You can't just take it." Her smile didn't waver, but her tone sharpened. "Well, you should have locked your garage, Sam. And honestly, it's just a fridge. Don't make a scene." She shut the door in his face. Sam wasn't one to let things slide, not when animals were at risk. The vaccines, exposed to fluctuating temperatures in Karen's backyard, were likely ruined hundreds of dollars worth, not to mention the kittens who needed them. He tried reasoning with her again that afternoon, this time with a neighbor, Mrs. Delgado, as a witness. Karen doubled down, accusing Sam of overreacting. "You're being dramatic," she snapped, loud enough for half the street to hear. "It's my property now. Finders keepers." Mrs. Delgado gasped, but Karen just crossed her arms, daring Sam to push further. The neighborhood buzzed with whispers. Karen's audacity wasn't new, but this was a new low. Sam, meanwhile, was spiraling. Without the fridge, he couldn't store new vaccines properly, and his clinic's reputation was at stake. He considered legal action but knew it would take weeks' time the animals didn't have. Instead, he posted about the incident on the neighborhood's online forum, hoping to rally support. The response was swift. Comments poured in, most condemning Karen, though a few of her allies' other HOA busybodies defended her, claiming Sam was making a mountain out of a molehill. The tension simmered for days. Karen kept the fridge, using it to store leftovers while Sam scrambled to borrow a replacement from a colleague. Neighbors took sides, and Willow Creek felt like a powder keg. Then came the turning point. Sam, desperate for a solution, remembered Karen's obsession with security. Her house was rigged with cameras, doorbells, floodlights, the works. If she'd recorded herself taking the fridge, it could be the evidence he needed. He didn't have access to her footage, but Karen's own hubris would be her undoing. On a crisp Tuesday evening, the neighborhood gathered for an impromptu meeting in the community center. Karen strutted in, confident she'd charm her way out of the mess. Sam, flanked by Mrs. Delgado and a few other neighbors, stood at the front, his laptop connected to a projector. The room fell silent as he clicked play. There, in grainy but unmistakable clarity, was Karen, dragging the fridge across Sam's garage, glancing around nervously before hauling it over the fence. The footage wasn't from Sam's property, it was from Karen's own security camera, which she'd foolishly synced to a cloud account accessible to her ex-husband, who'd grown tired of her antics and shared it with Sam. Gasps filled the room. Karen's face drained of color as the video looped, her own voice audible from a later clip, "It's just a fridge, Sam. Get over it." The crowd turned on her, murmurs growing into outright jeers. "You stole from a vet," shouted one neighbor. "Those animals could have died," cried another. Karen tried to deflect, stammering about borrowing and misunderstandings, but the evidence was ironclad. Her own camera, her own words, had sealed her fate. The fallout was swift and brutal. Sam filed a police report, and Karen was charged with theft and property damage. The ruined vaccines cost her a hefty fine, and the court ordered her to replace the fridge and cover Sam's losses. But the real punishment was social. Willow Creek shunned her. Invitations to barbecues dried up. Her real estate clients dwindled as word spread online, the video going viral on local forums and even making it to a few news outlets. "Karen steals vet's fridge, gets caught by her own camera," became a headline that haunted her. She tried to move, but her reputation followed, a digital scarlet letter. Sam, meanwhile, rebuilt. The community rallied around him, donating to replace the vaccines and even gifting him a new, state-of-the-art fridge for his clinic. The kittens he'd been treating pulled through, and his practice thrived. Karen, isolated and humiliated, became a cautionary tale, a reminder that entitlement has a price, and sometimes, the trap you set catches you instead. What do you think? Did Karen deserve her downfall, or was the community too harsh? Share your thoughts on where justice lies in this messy tale of greed and accountability.